Hi everyone, this is going to be a really quick overview video of your first major assignment of the semester, which is going to take the form of a reflection. We're going to do two of these reflections across this semester, and the goal of these is really just for you to show me how you're responding to and synthesizing all of the various material that we engage with in this course. So it's also a way for you to develop larger ideas about topics, concepts, themes that we discuss in relation to these texts. It's a way for you to track your reading and understanding for later use in the secondary classroom as well. So I think the hard thing about this assignment is that it's relatively unstructured in the sense that I want your reflection to take the form that is most useful for you. And that might be outlining, creating a chart or a diagram. It might be traditional expository writing. It might be you creating kind of a word map or using a blend of visuals and texts. And a little bit later in this video, I'm going to show you some reflections that I had students do in another class where there was a variety of different forms that students chose as the way they wanted to respond. So you might get some ideas from that. So, whatever form that your reflection takes, it does need to do a few things. And the first one of those things that it needs to do is it needs to accurately reference readings and media that you've read prior to when you write it. So, for this particular reflection, it's going to be readings and content from weeks 1, 2, and 3. And you want to include either direct quotations to these texts that support your thinking or very specific references. I would recommend a combination of both. You want to clearly connect and synthesize ideas across readings, media, class discussions, and other resources in a sophisticated way. So I want to see how you're making connections across everything that we've read. I want to see how you're synthesizing larger ideas. That might take the form of you choosing kind of a recurring theme or something that you're noticing and connecting that to multiple pieces of material from the course so far. And then finally, your reflection needs to be readable, obviously completed with care. You spent some time on this, I want to see it. And it needs to include proper in-text citations. I'm not too worried about you including a works cited page just because we're all reading the same thing for this. If you do find a source that is outside of the class material, please do include a works cited page. But if you're just referencing everything that we read, which is all this reflection requires, just include those proper in-text citations and you'll be good. So here's what needs to be in reflection number 1. You must include direct quotations and specific references to chapters 1 and 2 of Building Academic Language, as well as chapters 1 and 2 of Getting to the Core of Literacy. So I definitely expect to see references to those 4 chapters. Then you need to include at least 2 references to any of the following supplemental material: Science of Reading, Structured Literacy, Common Core State Standards, Universal Design for Learning, Backwards Planning, or Yazzie Martinez versus State of New Mexico. So I know it's really overwhelming to think about including references to every single one of those topics and the materials that we use to discuss them. So just 2 of those are fine. So let's say maybe within your reflection, you want to reference one of the frameworks that we use for structured literacy or science of reading, like Scarsborough's Rope. And then maybe you want to reference one of the videos that we watched on Common Core State Standards. So just choose 2 of those. So this is a 10-point assignment. You'll see that I have a rubric that directly reflects the criteria I just discussed. So you get 4 points for direct quotes, specific references to course content, 4 points for connections and synthesis, and 2 points for readability, for a total of 10 points. So as I mentioned earlier, the most difficult thing about this assignment, I think, is the level of choice. So you get to choose the form that your reflection takes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up some examples from past classes to show you. Obviously, I don't use examples from past 438 classes because I've had some issues with plagiarism before. So I'm using some examples from other classes. The first example I'm going to pull up is what I would call a more traditional reflection. So this is an expository reflection where the student is just kind of connecting the dots through expository writing. This ended up being about 3, close to 2.5, 3 pages, which would be fine. So that's kind of the more traditional reflection. Then we have here You can see that this student even said, for this reflection, I collected some quotes from each reading. I then analyzed the quotes and wrote down some thoughts and then made connections between all of them. So she has her readings up here in this first row, and then she goes down to include quotes and of course, to discuss connections across all texts. So that was kind of a way that she used almost some tables to graphically organize her thoughts here. Then we've got something that's a little bit more non-traditional. I had a student here that used an Excel doc and created a sheet on practical applications, a sheet on what his take was, and a sheet on statement of intent. Within practical applications, he utilized quotes from the readings and thought about how he would apply those directly in the classroom. So this was kind of above and beyond. I really appreciated the way he sort of organized his thinking here. Then we've got this just kind of visual graphic organizer where this student put the sort of main idea that they were taking across all the texts in the middle and then included how the various other texts were informing that main idea. They used quotes, had some works cited here. This was kind of a different way of doing things. And let me go ahead and X out of this. Our fifth one is another sort of graphic here that was really interesting. So you can see how this student is kind of making connections between ideas here, utilizing different quotes from the text as well as their own commentary. So what I'm trying to get across is that there are a lot of ways to complete this first reflection. There's not really a right or a wrong way. As long as you are hitting up these three requirements here, use the rubric as a guide if you have questions. If you are worried about things like length, or if you have an idea that I didn't show that you think might work for this, just reach out and we can talk through it. But as always, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. And if you want access to one of these reflections that I shared, please email me as well, and I'll get you access to that. All right, all. I wish you luck on this first assignment and let me know if you need any help.